Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Cute Kind Of. So the vibe is different today. I recorded this episode earlier today and I did not like it. For some reason, I was just like, this is a terrible episode. I can't believe I'm about to post this, blah, blah, blah. I even scrapped the entire episode from my Notion or put it on hold for another day. And then I was sitting today, an hour after. I was watching some TV and doing some art on my iPad, and I realized I'm going a bit overboard with the perfectionism thing, but I did want to re-record it later in the evening. So right now it's around 8, and my room, I put on my Christmas lights, and I have my little aromatherapy diffuser happening right now. It's lighting up different colors, but I can't see it because my laptop's in the way, but that's okay. So today's episode is actually all about passion and hobbies, and just kind of finding a passion and hobby that makes you feel good. You know, when you're doing it and when you're done with it, you kind of just feel good. And I know right now during quarantine, a lot of people are kind of trying to search for hobbies to do, maybe discover their passion. I don't know if you've noticed, but I use hobbies and passions kind of interchangeably on here in this episode. So sorry about that. I kind of put them in the same realm because I think your hobbies are a form of passion. But I'm pretty sure there's definitely differences between the two. Passion is kind of a feeling, I'm passionate about this, whereas a hobby is actually a thing you can do. But I'm using them interchangeably. Bear with me. This is actually one of the questions I get asked all the time, specifically by my friends. They ask me a lot, Laila, how did you discover what you wanted to do in college, in life in general, where you wanted to work, what you wanted to work as? And honestly, it was, sorry, I just hit my knee against the table, but honestly, it was just by luck. So if you don't know, I went to college for my degree in strategic communication. My degree is a Bachelor of Science in journalism, but the track was strategic communication, and that deals with advertising, PR. However, I have newsroom writing experience as well. They kind of teach news and info as well as stratcom. Okay, so wait, I need to go back. So the school I went to had 2 tracks in the journalism school specifically. One was stratcom, strategic communication. The other one was news and info. News and info was your traditional reporter, news broadcaster, sports on air person, whereas strategic communication was a mix between advertising and PR. However, in the journalism school, a lot of us took classes within each track. So I have a pretty firm understanding of what happens for a news and info graduate or student. And then I worked for the school's newspaper as kind of my extracurricular. So I have newsroom experience. The reason why I wanted to go to journalism school is because I wanted to be kind of a beauty blogger. No joke. I'm not even joking. Because backtracking all the way to 2006. So I think I've said this story once or twice, but 2006, my friend and her older sister was friends with my older sister. So the both of them would come all the time and we would do sleepovers and hang out. And one time, my friend's older sister showed us a video on YouTube. Like I said, this is 2006, 2007, and it was from Michelle Phan. She was showing us this video and it was pour mask. It's a very old videos of hers, but it's an egg pour mask. And at the end of the video, she was showing you how to make an omelet. And my friend's older sister was isn't that so weird? She's showing you how to make an omelet, but it's a beauty video. But I was just super obsessed with the fact that someone was putting beauty videos on YouTube. So that kind of started my interest in makeup, and that kind of skyrocketed from there. And honestly, even before YouTube, I was very into makeup as well. I loved playing with my mom's makeup. I loved dude, I remember one time we were going to a shadi or a South Asian wedding, and I forced my mom to let me put on red lipstick. And I remember my mom's old flip phone. It had a camera in it. It was literally 1 megapixel, but it was a photo of me and that friend at the wedding, and I was wearing terrible red lipstick. Oh my god, it was so bad. But yeah, I was pretty obsessed with makeup already, so seeing those videos only furthered my interest. And so I easily became obsessed with YouTube videos in general, but also mainly beauty videos. And then in 2013, I finally got the courage to start my own blog, and it was a beauty blog. Up until then, I really wanted to make a YouTube. Like, I would make mock YouTube videos in my room like any other person. Like, literally, I talked to all my friends, and they're all like, yeah, like, we'll sit in the mirror and do our makeup and like literally talk to ourselves as if we're doing a makeup tutorial. Yeah, but I didn't really have the confidence to start a YouTube because YouTube was very daunting and scary to me because it was such a huge platform. So then I just decided, let me try blogging. So in 2013, December 2013, I started a blog. I was in middle school. I think I was in 8th grade. And so I kept up that blog. I didn't tell any of my school friends that I had a blog, only because like I was very like scared, nervous, and I really did like feel as if like I cared about what a lot of other people thought of me. And also, like, I consider my blog kind of like a baby in the sense of like, you know, like I don't want anyone like saying mean things about it. Senior year, like junior year actually, I flip-flopped from wanting to do medicine to like wanting to go into business, that I was like, oh, maybe I'll do math because like I like math. And then finally, I was like, why don't I just like apply to journalism? I think in my heart, I really wanted to do journalism, and my dad was okay with it. So I was like, okay, let me try with journalism. And so then I applied to my school. I went to Ohio University, and yeah, okay, so I live in Ohio. So Ohio University had the best like journalism program in the state, and just had a really good journalism school in general. So I applied and I got in. And it's literally the only school I visited on my own. I have visited like the University of Michigan and Ohio State because my siblings went there, but I never actually like went to any other school to tour except Ohio University. I remember when I chose my major, I got into the journalism school and they were like, okay, you need to choose a track. And I was like, huh? I like did not actually know what StratCom was, but for some reason I was very fearful of like putting myself out there. So as a news reporter, you have to like interview people. You're very much so in the front and center, if you will, compared to like a PR person. But at the time, StratCom I didn't know what StratCom was. It just sounded cool, so I clicked it on the paper. And I remember like my freshman year, like the intro class where every freshman was in it who was in the journalism school. Like our professor was like, yeah, majority of you guys are news and info right now, but halfway through, half of you guys are going to switch to StratCom, which ended up happening. I actually had a friend who was news and info that I met first semester, and we ended up like attending PRSSA together. And she really liked it. I really liked it. We had like a great time and we bonded really well with everyone. So she was like, I think I'm going to switch to StratCom. And she did. And like now she's like the most beautiful ray of sunshine helping the world. I don't know if she listens to my podcast, but Jess, if you're listening, that was about you. I don't know if she listens, but so you can say this was like a mix of like passion and just kind of letting where the cards fell. But yeah, now like I still want to work in like media. So I still like PR, I still like advertising, I still like love newsrooms and working in a newsroom, marketing. But I think even throughout my entire like journey from like 2006 to now was definitely that I loved beauty and makeup, and I really saw myself working somewhere within that industry. And I don't even know, like, the clicking moment that was, like, well, obviously, okay, I lied. The clicking moment was, like, that Michelle Phan YouTube video, but I think it was definitely just a mix of, like, taking a chance, kind of putting myself out there, and then being like, you know what, let me try to make this a thing. Right? I think that's a thing with a lot of people who have like side hustles or side hobbies. Once it starts gaining momentum and like people are interested in like a lot of podcasters have like Patreon. People start giving you money through Patreon, listener support, so on and so forth. Then that's when that side hustle, like the light bulb goes off and it's like, how do I turn this into like a full-time thing? Hello, everyone. I'm here to introduce today's sponsor, Anchor. If you've been following this podcast for some time, you might know that out of all the podcast hosts I have looked into/tried, Anchor is my favorite. Unlike many other podcast hosts, Anchor is free and will actually pay you, yes, pay you from its own sponsorship program. Another plus, you do not have to have a minimum listenership in order to qualify. You can literally upload an ad with your first episode. Anchor also provides creation tools that allow you to edit and record your podcasts from your computer or your phone. When you are done and hit upload, Anchor will distribute your podcast for you on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and more platforms. So in conclusion, Anchor makes podcasting super easy, so start one today. I literally know you've been thinking about it. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Alright, going back to the question of how did you discover your hobby/passion? Like I said, it was just I got lucky from figuring it out from such a young age. However, I wanted to give some tips and tricks and just exercises you guys can do to help you discover your passion. And obviously, I'm not saying passion as this life-changing, happily ever after moment. I'm just kind of referring to it as a side thing that leaves you feeling fulfilled or makes you feel good about yourself or just feel good in general. And then maybe if you pursue it consistently, it can become a career, obviously, or just another side income. So the first thing I'm going to recommend is kind of the exercise, and then I'm going to follow up with the questions to help you finish the exercise. But I highly suggest you start by drawing out a mind map. The reason why I really like mind maps is that they're a very visual way to kind of organize your ideas and kind of see them just straight on paper. And it's very easy to read and very easy to organize. So basically in the center you can write your name, hobbies, and then start drawing out branches of of things you like or would like to pursue as a hobby, or things you have as an interest, or things you have as what you like to do in your free time. And next, I'm going to start recommending questions you can ask yourself in order to help you fill out this mind map. All right, starting off, I think one of the things that really helped me, what inspired this episode really was, it was an episode idea in my folder, but what really was oh, I'm going to do this week, was that I was doing some journaling prompts about healing your inner child, if you will. And one of the questions for that prompt was basically what are things that gave you joy as a child? So what were your favorite things to do as a child? And I put down playing video games, and then also beauty, makeup, doing my makeup. And that surprise, surprise, makeup is still one of my favorite things, but also video games is one of my favorite things. Pretty much still is. But one of the reoccurring thing I saw by writing those things down is I haven't done them consistently. And what I mean by consistently, it's enough that I am keeping up with it. I haven't done it since a sophomore in college, which actually made me really sad because I love old things very dearly. So I was I need to get back on this. Other than the makeup, but in 2020 I barely wore any makeup. And then also I was just not in the mood to do makeup. But yeah, so that's the first question. Next is knowing the difference between hobbies and interests. I'm going to link an article from the New York Times by Tara Parker Pope. She does a lot of the smarter living articles on the New York Times, and I really like them. She did a article about how to find a hobby, and she highlighted the difference between hobbies and interests. So interest is something you want to learn about and find more information about, whereas hobbies is something you can do as as a way to fill your time leisurely. And for me, my interests include language learning, self-help books. I learn a lot from self-help books. Whereas my idea of a hobby, I did it today because I was just so compelled to do it, but I really like doing pixel art. I think it's so much fun and super therapeutic. It's a coloring book for your iPad basically. Another interest of mine is art. I love just going through art. I don't know what happened, but in the past year and a half, I've really gotten into art. I don't know how to explain it. I don't know who did this to me, but I love art now. So yeah, I think I said that. Art, language learning, self-help books, obviously. Leisurely, obviously doing video games, doing my makeup, Thing I would take into account is definitely if you are an analytical person or more creative person. Like for example, I'm a very creative person. I'm not huge on the analytical side, but I think a lot of people get confused that like your hobbies or even your interests can only be like creative things, when in reality that's not true at all. You can definitely take an analytical approach if you are more analytical, and you don't have to force yourself to like creative hobbies if you are analytical. I'm really surprised by the amount of like people who only think like creative hobbies are the only hobbies, when in reality you can do more like problem solving based mind training games, like Big Brain Academy for the Nintendo DS Lite, you know what I'm saying? Okay. But that's one. Another thing I would take into account is if you believe in astrology, you can definitely take into account your like zodiac sign and like your entire chart even. I'm a Pisces, so I think you guys can tell that a lot of people are probably being like, oh, that makes sense. Everything's making sense now. But another thing I recommend is the Myers-Briggs personality test. Just be honest on it. Like, don't like write down answers of your ideal self. Write down answers of your actual self. And honestly, you can probably go online and take a bunch of just random like personality / like business quizzes just to figure out what you would like to do as a hobby. And hobbies can like range from like physical activity to creative activities, analytical activities, even just like hanging out with clubs and sports. Like you can literally go on Facebook and probably find like a local group that likes to go ice skating in your area. So literally there's a lot of things out there. You just have to be like open to it. The last thing you're obviously gonna need is time, to actually like sit down and do all these things. I think time is a privilege, definitely, only because like a lot of people, even in quarantine, have to work like full-time jobs, take care of families, go to school, work multiple jobs, so on and so forth. But with that being said, you really don't have to dedicate that much time to your hobby. The whole point is for it to like leave you feeling good and just help you de-stress. Then finally is to definitely trust the process. You probably hear this all the time, but like a lot of times when people pick up a new hobby, they'll almost drop it immediately when they don't see progress or they're not perfect. And I mean, it's going to be really hard, even probably with you guys who are like on the creative field. Even for me personally, like I said, I run this podcast, and like when I do makeup, so on and so forth, like Instagram is a huge place, and I oftentimes feel as if I'm comparing myself to everyone. And honestly, when it comes to your hobby and your passion, you're not in competition with anyone. Like that's a hard lesson I learned. I think after like developing an abundance mindset rather than like a fixed mindset, or like a growth mindset instead of a fixed mindset, I definitely am in the realm and believe that there's enough room for everyone at the top, and you're improving every single day, so don't get discouraged. I know it's hard, but I know it's easier said than done, and I know it gets hard, and then the hype dies down and you lose motivation, but keep pushing through, and you'll definitely find it. I think like when it came down to it, and this is just in the realm now of passion beyond hobbies, but finding your passion is hard. Like I said, I lucked out, but it is really hard, and it takes time, and it's a way to invest in yourself. I'm a firm believer that everyone in the world has a passion. They just haven't discovered it yet, Literally, you'll be surprised. Like, it can be the most randomest thing. You can make YouTube videos. You can start like a fashion Instagram, movie review Instagram, book Instagram, podcast. You can listen to last week's episode. I tell you how I run my podcast. You can literally, if you're analytical, you can do coding, chess, play like mind puzzle games, or learn to play like certain card games. Yeah, like all that stuff. Even magic. Is magic creative or is that analytical? Who knows? But there's like, you gotta just open your mind up that there are like endless possibilities to passions. And then also on top of that, you just gotta go for it. Like, dude, like the hardest part is starting, but once you start and like put time into it, you're gonna like look back at it and be like, whoa, like I can't believe it's already been like half a year since I started this, and I already see so much improvement. I love when people like start fitness Instagrams and they're like, we're gonna go on like this journey together, and I'm like, yes, we will. Or like my art Instagram, or like people who start art Instagrams, and I'm like, yes, show me your art. But all in all, it's supposed to be like a fun process, and you'll get there. Obviously, like, do the mind map and then answer the questions. Start from like your childhood like joys and then move on from there. Take it slow. You don't have to rush. This is your life, your hobby, your passion that you're trying to discover. And don't let anyone rush you. And then also, last tidbit, it can be overwhelming, but hopefully like the exercises I told you to do will help you kind of narrow it down. And obviously just take one step at a time. It will be good. But that kind of wraps up all the tips in my story I had, so let's wrap up the episode. Alright, thank you for listening to today's episode of Cute Kind Of. If you would like to listen to future episodes of Cute Kind Of, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Breaker, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Castbox, iHeartRadio, Bullhorn, Amazon Podcasts, and other major podcast streaming services. You can find me on Instagram at QKindOfPodcast. Not gonna lie, I don't mean to be, what's the opposite of humble? Oh wait, let me look it up. Oh my god, the word is brag. That's the word I was thinking about. But I don't mean to brag, but my Instagram feed, kind of popping. So follow me there. You can follow me on Twitter at QKindOf. It's not really popping there. I don't really do anything with my Twitter. But if you'd like to email me, my email is hellocutekindof@gmail.com. And like always, anything I mentioned is already linked on the blog at www.cutekindof.com. Alright, like I said, this is like my second time recording this episode. And this came out way better than the first time. I think I'm going to start recording these episodes at night and then editing during the day. But I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And yeah, like let me know what you want to see from me. I'm thinking about starting to do like Instagram reels, which I think is crazy considering the fact like I was totally okay with spending my entire life not ever like posting my face ever, really. But now we're here. But I'm trying to be more outgoing. So yeah, let me know. But with that being said, thank you for listening to today's episode, and I look forward to talking to you guys next week. Bye!